Today, I'm bringing you nothing but trouble. 3 big sins, 3 uncomfortable truths. First, is artificial intelligence in a bubble, or is it actually exploding? Second, where are the European elites leading us by cutting off our own electricity? And third, my favorite one, what do a Chinese citizen, an Argentine, and a Venezuelan all have in common? You're going to want to stay with me for this one, because by the end, you'll see how all 3 are connected through control, money, and power. Let's start with artificial intelligence. In my opinion, AI is not in a bubble. It's booming. Just look at what's happening right now. We're seeing an unprecedented construction of data centers all over the world. Take a look at the ETF that tracks the so-called Magnificent Seven. The ticker is MAGS. Can you see that clear uptrend? I don't see any exhaustion. I don't see a bubble, even with all the noise. The Fed meeting, earnings reports, and even the upcoming meeting between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump. This thing keeps climbing. That's strength. And it's not just the tech stocks. Look at semiconductors and data center construction companies. They're all in clear uptrends. Yes, they're overbought, sure. A correction might come, but that would just be a pause inside a bullish trend. Now, here's something most people don't realize. AI's biggest limitation isn't computing power. It's electricity. The US currently has about 5,400 data centers operating, more than the rest of the world combined. And yet, they keep building more. That means AI's growth depends on one simple thing: energy. OpenAI even told the White House directly, they need the US to massively increase power generation capacity, or AI growth will hit a wall. Meanwhile, China has enough energy. The US doesn't. So electricity is now becoming a scarce and valuable commodity. Google has already admitted they need more electricity. They're trying to buy it from NextEra Energy. And what happened? NextEra said they're restarting an old nuclear plant just to meet Google's energy demand for data centers. Now, take a look at NextEra's stock chart. It's facing strong resistance around $92, a level it's been below for a long time. But here's the interesting part. The longer a stock consolidates under resistance, the more energy it builds for the breakout. If it breaks above 92, it could fly. AI's not in a bubble, it's expanding. Its main bottleneck is electricity, and the US is rushing to fix that gap while Europe is doing the opposite. Because while the US is restarting nuclear plants, Europe is shutting them down. And that, believe me, has consequences. Let's talk about that next. While the US is reopening nuclear plants to power AI, Europe is doing the exact opposite. They're shutting them down. France, Germany, and Spain, countries that once led the world in nuclear technology, are now dismantling the very infrastructure that made them independent. In Germany, for example, the last 3 nuclear plants were closed in 2023. That decision was celebrated as a victory for green energy, but it turned into a disaster. Electricity prices skyrocketed, industrial production fell, and companies began moving operations abroad, mainly to the United States, where energy is cheaper and more stable. Now, here's what really bothers me. This isn't a mistake. It's a strategy. The European elites know exactly what they're doing. They're not trying to strengthen Europe. They're trying to control it. Because whoever controls energy controls production, and whoever controls production controls society. So when they deliberately make energy scarce, they make citizens dependent. And dependency is the modern form of slavery. Look around the world. China is expanding nuclear energy. The US is reopening plants. And Europe? It's burning money to pretend that solar panels and wind turbines can replace base power. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against renewable energy. But renewables only work with a strong base load, not instead of it. And now, Europe is learning that lesson the hard way. Factories are closing. Energy-intensive industries, steel, chemicals, manufacturing, are leaving Europe altogether. This isn't decarbonization. It's deindustrialization. As a European, it frustrates me to watch this. Because it's not just about economics. It's about sovereignty. You can't have political independence if you depend on others for your energy. And what's the result? While we shut down our reactors, China builds 24 new ones. The United States keeps adding capacity. And Europe keeps talking about sustainability, while importing energy from everyone else. That's not green policy. That's suicidal policy. But as bad as that sounds, what's happening in China is even worse. Because in China, it's not just about controlling energy. It's about controlling money itself. Now let's talk about China. Because what's happening there isn't just a story about money. It's a story about control. In China, owning Bitcoin is a crime. Yes, a crime. If a Chinese citizen buys, holds, or transacts in Bitcoin, they can go to prison. The government has banned cryptocurrency trading completely. They've criminalized the very idea of private money. Think about that for a second. When a government forbids its citizens from owning an asset, it's not protecting them. It's protecting itself. Because Bitcoin represents freedom. It's money outside the system. And that's exactly what authoritarian regimes fear the most. China doesn't want citizens to have private wealth. It wants state-managed wealth. It doesn't want savings. It wants obedience. And Bitcoin breaks that system because it gives individuals the ability to store and move value without permission. That's why it's forbidden. Instead of freedom, China offers its people the digital yuan, a fully programmable, traceable, government-controlled currency. They call it innovation, but it's not. It's surveillance disguised as progress. With the digital yuan, the government can track every transaction. They can limit how much you spend, where you spend it, and even make your money expire if they want you to consume faster. That's not a financial system. That's a digital prison. And what's terrifying is that this model is being quietly studied by other governments, including in the West. Now, why is this important for us? Because China is showing us what happens when fiat money merges with total surveillance. It's the perfect example of what happens when the state controls both the money supply and the information flow. And make no mistake, this isn't about technology. It's about ideology. The goal isn't efficiency. It's submission. The digital yuan isn't a currency. It's a leash. So, when people tell me Bitcoin is risky, I ask them, risky compared to what? Compared to a currency that can be frozen, monitored, or deleted at any time. Owning Bitcoin isn't a financial act anymore. It's a political statement. It's saying, I choose freedom over permission. And while China is imprisoning people for holding Bitcoin, something fascinating is happening elsewhere. Governments are starting to realize that they can't stop it. Because Bitcoin isn't just surviving. It's growing stronger. While China criminalizes Bitcoin and turns money into a surveillance weapon, the rest of the world faces a choice. Because this isn't just about China. This is about the future of money everywhere. Central bank digital currencies, the so-called cbdcs, are already being tested in over 90 countries. Governments say it's about innovation, about making payments faster, about inclusion. But let's be honest, what they really want is control. We used to think authoritarian control could only exist in places like China. But look at what's happening in the West. Every year, the state asks for more access, more data, more visibility into your life. They say it's to protect you from fraud. But in reality, they're building the same tools of financial surveillance, just with better marketing. So when I look at the digital yuan, I don't just see China's future. I see a mirror. That's why Bitcoin matters more than ever. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not a speculative fad. It's the first real alternative to the centralized financial system. Bitcoin is the antidote to digital slavery. It gives people the power to hold, move, and protect value without asking for permission. It's not about rebellion. It's about sovereignty. When I hold Bitcoin, I'm not betting against the dollar or the euro. I'm betting on freedom. Because I know one simple truth. If your money isn't free, you're not free either. And that's the lesson China is teaching the world. Not through words, but through fear. By criminalizing Bitcoin, they've proven its power. If Bitcoin were irrelevant, they wouldn't be afraid of it. And now, while China bans it, countries in Latin America, Africa, and even Europe are starting to integrate Bitcoin into their financial systems. The harder they try to suppress it, the stronger it becomes. That's what happens when an idea is built on mathematics, not on politics. So let me leave you with this. We're entering an age where money, energy, and data will define who's truly free. The governments will keep promising security, but every time you trade freedom for security, you end up losing both. The battle for financial freedom won't be fought in the streets. It will be fought on blockchains, in code, and in the choices each of us makes every day. Do you want your money programmable or private, controlled or sovereign? The answer to that question will define the next generation of human freedom. If you value this kind of independent analysis, where we speak honestly about the future of money and power, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video. Because real information, the kind that helps you think freely, is the only thing they can't censor.